This video is sponsored by Crutchfield.
Summer is in full swing and the July deals are scorching hot. Big savings and discounts on select TVs. Save up to $400 on select Klipsch speakers and subs. Save up to $570 on select home theater receivers. Save up to $700 on select soundbar systems. And so much more. Award-winning customer service, free shipping on all orders $35 or more, and standard delivery in 2 business days or less to the continental United States. The sale begins July 14th and ends July 21st, so don't hesitate to add some upgrades to your summer vibes. Get it all at crutchfield.com.
Twister is one of those extremely beloved 90s films. I think we can all agree on that. A perfect storm of executives and artists behind it. You've got the director of Speed, Jan de Bont, and the producers of Jurassic Park, bringing us a compelling story about storm chasers and their obsession to further the science of how we can monitor, track, and possibly even predict the potential onslaught of a tornado before it happens. Helen Hunt is great in it, Bill Paxton, R.I.P., Carrie Elwes's smarmy performance makes you want to punch him in the face, and even Philip Seymour Hoffman gives a memorable comedic performance. It's just good, man. So when it was announced that it was coming to 4K UHD, of course, I had to pre-order it. I even opted for the Steelbook version, which has this really cool subtle cover art showcasing the slick silhouettes of our protagonists running away from a twister on the front, and the infamous cow on the back. That cow, man. Such an iconic moment in the film. On the inside, though, it's just the disc. And that's it. Although it does have that still where they're in the truck and the tornado's behind them. So that's pretty cool. But that's how I got it. I just prefer the subtlety. I think it's cool. All right, just taking a look at the disc menu. We've got play and scene selections, of course, audio, English, French, and Spanish, at least in the version that's released in the US. Subtitles, special feature. We've got some commentary, The Legacy of Twister, Taken by the Wind, Chasing the Storm, Twister Revisited, HBO First Look, The Making of Twister, Anatomy of a Twister, and Van Halen's Human Being music video. And that's it. Hooray! Speaking of film, it was shot on film back in 1996, so this was a fantastic native 4K scan of the negative. None of this 2K upscaling BS, you know? Both the video and audio of this 4K version was overseen by Jan de Bont himself, and the HDR in particular does give the film itself a better dynamic range of tones and colors. Although one thing to note is that it is in HDR10, not Dolby Vision, which was a little disappointing to find out, but not a deal breaker for me. I'm wondering if the reasoning behind this was that the color palette throughout the film is fairly muted and earth tones anyway. Nothing is ever too bright or flashy or eye-popping since we're dealing with storms, dark clouds, rain, etc. There are moments where the specular highlights light up the screen, like with the occasional explosion, etc. But for the most part, this isn't going to be a demo-worthy HDR presentation like Aquaman or anything. Something else I want to hit on is that the characters mentioned how the sky turns distinctly green when a tornado is brewing in a storm cell. And Jan de Bont seems to really want to highlight that aspect of the story. And I use the word highlight because this scene in particular, where he's fiddling with the dirt in his hands, is very green compared to previous home video releases. It's like he turned up the saturation just to really sell the story element of these storm chasers seeking out the green sky before all hell breaks loose. Did it take me out of the story? Nah, not really, but I did notice it, that's for sure. But I'll let you be the judge if it's too much or not. But the most exciting part about this new 4K version is that it got the Dolby Atmos treatment. Thank you. And man, it is fantastic. And I can happily say that it is loads better than the over-the-top mix provided by the Turbine Edition Blu-ray that's been kicking around for years now. But here's the thing. It's still a product of its time. This was 1996, so I'm just going to come out and say it. It's not going to be a demo-worthy subwoofer workout. Yes, it sure rumbles during some of the action scenes, but what's more impressive about this Atmos mix is everything else. The intense immersion of wind, rain, hail, debris flying around, voices shouting, vehicles being blown around and crashing down, the cow flying around the soundstage. It's a fantastic overall mix, having to deal with so much sound design to sell these tornadoes being so destructive. Right from the start, with the title sequence going straight into the first scene where Helen Hunt's character is a young girl, the storm scene with the little yellow truck, the cow scene where there are sister tornadoes swirling around the red truck, causing it to spin around, the drive-in theater scene, they're all done so well by putting you literally in the middle of the action. Now, to give credit where credit is due, I watched Shane Lee's take on Twister, mostly because he has his fancy Trinoff Atmos viewer app, and he pointed out this is almost a completely static mix, meaning that there are rarely any scenes where there are moving objects going around the soundstage. There are two, though, when the boat flies over the truck, and you guessed it, the flying cow is a moving object. Hooray! But that's another testament just to good mixing. Don't get all caught up in the fact that
Atmos better have moving objects or else I'm going to write a strongly worded email to the executives of such and such studio.
No, this proves that a static mix can still be immersive if done correctly. Don't forget, even Top Gun Maverick was largely static throughout the entire movie. Just saying. Sure, the CGI is pretty outdated at this point, creating stormy days when they most likely filmed on a sunny day. But for me, I purposely transport myself back into that era. Of course, the CGI in the new Twisters movie is going to be better, but it doesn't take me out of the film when watching the 1996 version. Again, it's a product of its time, so I'm not going to fault it for that. It's like a time capsule, honestly, a historical snapshot of film in this era, and watching it instantly takes me back to my freshman year of high school when I saw it in the theater. My best friend even immediately bought the soundtrack afterwards, and we would play the Van Halen song on repeat for days. Good memories, man. That's what I think of when it comes to Twister. It was an event back then. It's just not the same anymore with movie releases. But I digress. If you're a film buff, a physical media collector, or just a fan of good stories, I personally think this is a no-brainer. This is the best Twister has ever looked or sounded. So it's a must-have for sure. And honestly, that about wraps it up, folks. It's now available on digital, Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, slipcover, and 4K Steelbook Collector's Edition. Links are in the description below if you want to pick up your copy today. Are you going to get Twister for yourself? Or did you already order it? What are your fond memories surrounding this 90s action flick? Let's have a conversation in the comments below, people. As always, this world is crazy as it is already, so it just makes sense to be kind to one another out there. Don't just watch Twister, experience it in 4K HDR and Dolby Atmos. And of course, always be listening.